Hello, hello, everyone, and welcome back to Reclaim Your Rise. I am back with another solo episode for you today. I really hope you're not sick of my voice yet. I promise for the next 6 weeks, we have some incredible guest episode lined up for you. So get excited about that. Today's episode, what I want to talk about is how to know when your insulin sensitivity is changing and what to do about it. Things had to shift a bit because we were supposed to launch something that we've been teasing and we've been working on for the past 7 months at the end of April. And then that didn't happen. We didn't meet the deadline. And so we had to shift it back to now we can officially share it is Wednesday, May 13th. So it is happening. Hold me accountable. I feel like there's part of me that was a little bit relieved that we pushed it back just because I'm like, okay, we have even just a little bit more time to make it, better. But I can get very much in that perfectionist mindset where I'm like, we can't put it out until it's 10 out of 10 perfect. And the beauty of what we're launching is it's always going to be evolving. And so I'm just trying to remember that. So with that being said, today's episode, what I want to talk about is how to know when your insulin sensitivity is changing and what to do about it. So if I think back to when this happened, all the factors that were impacted were my sleep, my workouts, and being sick. And the first sign that I saw, sorry, Bella, let me start this part over. So if I think back to a month ago when this happened to me, the first sign that I saw that made me say, ooh, I think my insulin sensitivity is going down was that I started waking up higher, right? So normally I wake up between 110 and 120. And each day I was pushing, 130, 135, 140, 145, 150. I think there was even one day that I woke up at 160. And occasionally this can happen if you have a high carb, high fat meal the night before and you're not bolusing properly for it and getting that insulin on later to buffer that. But this was kind of that wasn't really the issue. It was more so just hormone related. And so I saw that and I was like, let me obviously deal with this now. But if I just am waking up higher and then I'm only correcting that, I'm going to constantly be in reactive mode here. And I have to think through, all right, well, if this part of my day is being impacted and my rates and my insulin and my pump is not keeping up with enough auto in the background to keep me, towards that 110 target, then all other parts of the day are going to be impacted as well. And so pretty much day 2, day 3 of this happening, I was thinking through, okay, what are my 3 options here? And so here are the 3 options that if this is happening to you, you can think of. Option 1 is you get back on your routine, right? You see your blood sugar starting to creep up. You see your time in range starting to go down, your average going up, and you're like, all right, what do I need to push? Do I need to push harder? And I don't know if pushing harder is the right word, but do I need my sleep to get better? Do I need to improve that? Do I need to be more disciplined with how much sleep I'm getting? Do I need to move again or move differently? Meaning if you are just walking, right? It's do I need to be adding some strength training, in, or, just a little bit more intensity of weights, whatnot. That's the main thing. Or for some people, it can be food as well. I feel when you're out of your routine, one of the first things that does slip is your food. And so it's how can I add in and be more mindful about the food that I'm taking in? When we talk about being mindful for insulin sensitivity about the food that you're taking in, and this is not to demonize any macronutrient because all macronutrients are essential and important, and it's really just about finding balance. But I find that for most of our clients, the fat tends to creep up because takeout is happening or there's more just chips or savory foods and, cheese and all those, ingredients that can cause more insulin resistance. And so the fat is something to watch even more so than the carbs. And that's just another, aside. But anyway, so that's the first thing is getting option 1 is can I get back into my routine? Now, for me personally, in that 2-week time where work, we were cranking out everything that we were working on and we're still working on now for this launch, getting back into my perfect routine was just not realistic and wasn't going to happen. And so then I went to option 2. And option 2 is adding more insulin contextually on top of what I was already giving, meaning my pump is telling me give 2 units for whatever, however many, how many carbs you're eating, or give 3 units as this correction. I knew I could add more insulin contextually on top of that because if the pump is giving me XYZ and that works for my normal baseline insulin sensitivity, it's not going to work now. So that's option 2. And I was okay, I can do that. And then option 3 was to go into my settings and actually adjust my rates, my insulin to carb ratios, my correction factors. and my basal rates, right? That's a third one you can play with. Even if you're on an auto mode pump, that having that freedom and flexibility to say, you know what, auto mode can't keep up right now. Let me go into manual mode as long as your basals are adjusted. This is one of the things that we help people with in our programs is just how to optimize your technology and everything and know what your rate should be. That is like always an option as well. So just to repeat, option one, get back in your routine. Option two, add more insulin contextually on top, or option three, go into your settings. Now, what is not an option here, right? Just to reiterate, is just staying the same and not doing anything. Because if you do that, right, you're missing out on the opportunity to, when life is crazy, not feel like life is crazy and now diabetes is crazy on top of it. Because when life is crazy and diabetes is crazy, that's when you get into that place where you're susceptible to burnout and just feeling exhausted and drained and weighed down. And so when you go ahead and understand how to work with your body when you're out of routine, then it doesn't feel as heavy. So what I ended up doing was kind of a little bit of a like mix of all three. So I'll say like option four is a hybrid where I was like, okay, I don't have an hour to work out. I don't even have 20 minutes to work out most days during this like time frame. I was like, I'm going to just make sure that I'm working out. I'm going from working out, 0 times a week right now to like 3 times a week just for 15 minutes. And in that 15 minutes, I am going to focus on killing my lower body. We're not doing Pilates. We're not doing yoga. We're not going on like a hot girl walk. We are strictly going to get our glutes and our hamstrings and our quads activated because 15 minutes of intense exercise like that really does make a difference for your insulin sensitivity for the next 24 hours. So for me, I would get on the Peloton a lot of the time. But like you don't need a Peloton. You can do like a high incline walk, run, sprint kind of situation on the treadmill. You could also just do, some strength training circuits. That's an option as well. So that was the first thing that I did, which was kind of like the routine piece of things. Then option two is to, which I said, like adding more insulin contextually on top of what I was giving. I did this for the morning time because I don't love, it's just like a little bit extra work to go into manual mode with your basals overnight time. So for me, I was like, okay, I'm going to go in auto mode overnight time. And then for the morning time, I'm going to add more insulin contextually on top of what my correction would be saying. So like, let's say I woke up at like 1:30, 1:40, I would just add some extra insulin on top of whatever the pump was suggesting. And then what I did was I went into manual mode for the rest of the day. I would have my basal rate setting, and I have multiple basal rate programs. I have one for just like my regular baseline. I have one for when I'm like sick, which is like a lot more insulin. And then I kind of have this just like medium one, which I don't even know what the name of it is, but it's like a, more than regular, but like less than if I'm sick. And then I started with that. And then on some of the days where I knew like the night before I really didn't get a lot of sleep, I would put an increased basal on of like 20%. Sometimes I would just keep the basal program on, and it was good enough. So I was really playing around with it. And doing a combination of all those three things, the first few days where I was noticing I was waking up higher, I looked at my time in range and it was slipping to like 65%. And by the time I did a combination of all these things, I was right back up to 80%. So all to say, like, if I would have just been like, oh, this is so frustrating. Like I have to, I'm not in my normal conditions and can't get back into my routine. And I'm just, I have to have that in order to feel better with my blood sugars, then I would have been like 2 weeks of like 60 to 65% time in range instead of kind of like knowing what levers to pull and what I had to work with. So those are just like some things to think through for your options when you notice that your insulin sensitivity is dropping and that your resistance is increasing. One thing that I will kind of add is that, things that just are going to be shifting your insulin sensitivity all across the board, right? This is all based on sleep, stress, illness, exercise, and hormones. If you are a female and you have your menstrual cycle, this part is huge depending on if you're on birth control, if you're not on birth control, or if like you're coming off or going on it. That is a big piece. And you can't just do that. You can't just, be hoping for more time in range and working towards a lower A1C and not considering the impact of your hormones. And it's not like, oh, shoot, my hormones are causing more insulin resistance. It's like, all right, well, what parts of the month do I need more insulin? What does that look like? What tools do I have to work with? Again, this is something that we work on a lot, especially with our female clients who come through coaching. And then the other piece of this is Now, depending on what is shifting with your insulin sensitivity, there's kind of the way I like to think of it is there's this like temporary resistance that can happen due to, once again, not sleeping the night before. But then there's this like temporary, or sorry, long term foundational shift in your sensitivity and your resistance that can happen when you make big changes in your lifestyle habits, right? And so if you are somebody who goes from not working out at all to now working out. It doesn't even have to be 5 days a week, but like 3 days a week, right? Or you're like walking every day after work, whatever it is, you may need to really look at that like foundational changes for your insulin to carb ratios. I think for me, why I didn't go to that was I knew the stressful 2 weeks was going, like I knew it was going to end. I didn't know how long it was going to be, but I knew it was going to end. And now I'm like back to, my like rates that I had before. But if you are changing your like lifestyle in a big way, or if you are a parent listening and you have a child, like we have a mom's group coaching program going on right now. And even just in our one-on-ones, if you have kids around those ages of like 9, 10, 11, 12, right? Like you have hormones that are going crazy, right? And a lot is happening in their bodies, and you are going to likely see more of a need during that time frame to be changing those more frequently. And then for adults, it's big changes, right? Are you going from work from home to now you're commuting, right? Are you going from a certain type of workout, like just, walking or just cardio, to now adding in strength training, right? And are you planning to be consistent with it? Or are you changing the way that you're eating as well, right? And that's the biggest piece is like the more consistent you can be with your habits, the more you are going to have a steady level of your insulin sensitivity that isn't going to fluctuate as much. And that way you can tell when life kind of throws you a curveball that it is because of those factors, and kind of more easily what you need to change. So with that being said, I'm really excited to share that next week. Let me just look at the dates because I don't want to get this wrong. I believe it's May 12th. So when this episode comes out a week from today on May 12th, I am hosting a free workshop on managing blood sugars during exercise and also how to boost insulin sensitivity strategically. So it is happening 2 times that day from 12 to 1 p.m. Eastern and then from 6 to 7 p.m. Eastern. I will put the link to sign up in the show notes. And this workshop, what you can expect is coming on to learn how to not go low during workouts or high, how to stay in range, how to not have that like post-workout spike either. And then of course, how to increase your insulin sensitivity on more of like a foundational level, if that is something that you are working towards. So with that being said, I'm going to leave you with that, and hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Let me know how you liked this episode, any tips or just kind of like big aha moments you had from it. Send me a DM on Instagram at Lauren_Bongiorno, and I will see you guys next week. Same time, same place. Bye guys.